I didn't even like the dress at first. It was one of those pale blush colors that get lost under soft lights, barely pink, but too pink to be called beige. The kind you only notice because it clings to the parts of you you've been taught to hide. But she liked it. She gasped before I even pulled the curtain all the way open, her hands flying to her mouth like a reflex. "That's it," she whispered. "Oh my God, that's so it." I blinked at myself in the mirror, trying to imagine it on a better day, on a better version of me. The fabric shimmered when I moved. A strange, beautiful softness I hadn't expected to carry so well. "You have to get that," she said, already pulling out her phone. "It's perfect for you." I didn't say anything. I just nodded like I always did when she got excited. Like I always did when our mother chimed in from the armchair with, "That color flatters you more than most things." I didn't ask what most things meant. I didn't need to. I bought the dress, on my card, the one with the chipped corner and the barely there limit. The salesgirl folded it gently into a silk garment bag, smiling with the kind of politeness you learn to resent in places like this. I carried it out of the shop like it meant something. Back then, it did. 3 months later, I got the group chat message. "Okay, girls. Dress colors are champagne blush, like the one MC's name wore that day. Ordering soon, champagne blush." My dress. The one I paid for. The one she told me to buy because it looked good on me. I didn't respond right away. I stared at the screen for a long time, my mouth dry, my pulse a dull drum in the hollow behind my collarbone. Then the second message followed. Actually, Bride's name was thinking. Since it already fits and everything, maybe MC's name could wear hers as is, saves everyone money, like it was a favor. Like I should be grateful to be spared the $139.99 rental fee. I read the message over and over again, waiting for the wave of rage or heartbreak that never came. Instead, it was something quieter, heavier, a sinking sort of ache. That dress, the one she gasped over, had been mine for all of 3 months before she made it hers. She's always been like that. I remember being 10, watching her blow out my birthday candles because Mom said, "Just let her, sweetie. It's easier," than her crying. It was always easier to make me the one who bent. My sister, Marcy, was beautiful in the kind of way that people rush to protect. Blonde, doe-eyed, tears on command. The kind of girl strangers offer discounts to. The kind of girl who gets rescued before she even needs saving. And me? I was the quiet one. The dependable one. The help her zip up one. The can you grab an extra chair one. The you're so lucky to have a sister like her one. By the time I turned 16, I had learned to step aside without being asked. It made everything smoother. It made me invisible. I wasn't asked to be a bridesmaid. I was told I was one. "We need even numbers," she said. "It's between you and Stephanie, and Steph's a little awkward in photos, you know." So I was useful again, like a well-placed prop, a silent placeholder in borrowed silk. Mom called it an honor. Dad just nodded like it was inevitable, and I played along, like I always had, because it was easier than saying, "No, I don't want to be in this wedding at all." But that dress, that was supposed to be mine, not theirs, not hers. It wasn't the dress that made me start to pull back. It was the moment I walked into their rehearsal planning brunch, 15 minutes early because I always am, and saw a printed seating chart on the kitchen counter. My name wasn't there, not at the head table, not with the family, not even with the other bridesmaids. I found myself listed at table 12. With the DJ's assistant, an aunt from Utah nobody liked, and the childhood friend they only invited to avoid drama. I stood there in my pressed blouse, holding a tray of mini muffins I had baked that morning. No one turned to greet me. No one noticed I had arrived. I sat at table 12 during the rehearsal dinner, trying not to make it obvious that I had to move my own name card from a different table where someone had carelessly placed it. The linens were wrinkled at the corners, and one of the tea lights was flickering like it was about to give up. There was no centerpiece. No one else at the table had arrived yet. For a moment, I just sat there, hands in my lap, trying to shrink. Across the room, I saw the head table, pristine, over-decorated, glowing like a stage set. Marcy was there already, in white lace and fake laughter, tilting her head toward the camera with that soft pout she always practiced in the mirror. Two of the other bridesmaids stood beside her, talking about nails and last-minute waxing appointments. I heard my name mentioned once. Not in a meaningful way, just as a placeholder again. "Wait, who's doing the hem on MC's dress?" Someone replied, "It's fine the way it is. She already owns it." Like I wasn't in the room, like I was a mannequin they'd borrowed, one that didn't need tailoring or attention. I unfolded my napkin and smoothed it onto my lap. It was the only thing in that moment I had control over. I remembered when I was 13 and Marcy was 11. Our mom took us to the mall the week before Easter. "I want both pairs," Marcy whined, hugging 2 boxes of shoes to her chest. I had picked out a pair of modest ballet flats in the clearance bin. No bows, no sparkle, just practical. I was used to that. "Pick one, Marcy," Mom said, half-heartedly. Marcy's lip quivered. "But MC's getting hers and I don't have church shoes?" My mother looked at me, then at the flats in my hands. "You don't really need those, do you?" I didn't answer. I just placed them back on the shelf. We left with both of Marcy's boxes. I went barefoot that Easter under my long dress. No one noticed. At the rehearsal dinner, I slipped into the bathroom halfway through the speeches. The stalls were empty. The light buzzed overhead, cool and slightly blue. I stood in front of the mirror and stared at myself like I was trying to make sense of the shape I had grown into. The lipstick I had applied an hour ago was already faded. My hair had frizzed at the edges from the afternoon humidity. There was a mascara smudge under one eye I hadn't noticed before. But what struck me most wasn't how tired I looked. It was how small I had allowed myself to become. I pressed a damp paper towel to the corner of my eye. Then I leaned closer and whispered to my reflection, "You don't owe them anything." It didn't sound like revenge. It didn't sound like anger. It sounded like a truth I had been waiting to speak to myself for years. Later that night, I lay on my childhood bed, the same bed they had moved to the basement, to make space for Marcy's bridal prep suite upstairs. I could hear laughter from above, muffled music, someone clinking wine glasses. She was having her last night as a single woman in my old room. My phone buzzed. "Mom, can you pick up Marcy's shoes from the alteration shop tomorrow? She left them." Then a follow-up. "Mom, you'll be driving her to the venue Saturday morning, right?" I typed out a reply, then deleted it. I opened my notes app instead and wrote this down. I bought the dress. I stepped aside. I baked the muffins. I smiled. They still made me table 12. And then I turned off my phone. The next morning, I didn't go to the alteration shop. I took a slow walk through the old neighborhood instead. The trees were beginning to turn. early autumn hints brushing the tips of the maples. I passed the park, where Marcy once pushed me off the swing and cried before I could. I didn't go back home until afternoon. No one called. No one asked where I was. No one offered to pick up the shoes themselves. Because somewhere deep down, they expected me to fix it all anyway. The morning of the wedding. The dress hung on the back of the door like it was waiting to be forgiven. I stared at it for a long time. I had taken it out of its plastic the night before and let it breathe, as if a few hours in open air would rid it of the memory that clung to the seams. It hadn't worked. There were pieces of me still sewn into it. The version of me who stood quietly in the fitting room, the version who smiled through every cut, every compromise. I ran my fingers along the hem. No one had offered to help steam. I had done it alone at midnight, carefully gliding the iron through the thin fabric like it might scream if I rushed. My hair was still damp when I pulled it back into a low twist. Simple. Forgettable. The way they liked me. From upstairs, I could hear laughter. The photographer had arrived. The bridal playlist, Marcy's curated mood board, she called it, was echoing through the floorboards. I recognized the song. It was the same one I had played years ago when I sat alone on the front steps, after being stood up for senior prom. She had come out, heard the music, and said, "Ugh, this song is so melancholy." Then she asked if I'd do her French braid, the bridesmaid entrance. Nobody watched. At the venue, everything was white. White flowers, white tablecloths, white runners. The kind of staged purity that always made me feel a little sick. I stood in the back hallway with the other bridesmaids as the coordinator pinned corsages and passed around gloss wipes. "Is your dress from the same boutique?" one of them asked, eyeing me. I nodded. "It's mine, from before." "Oh," she said, eyebrows raising. "That's convenient." I wanted to say, "It wasn't convenient. It was repurposed. It was stolen," while I smiled too hard to stop it. But I didn't. Instead, I pulled the gloss wipe from the packet and blotted my lips until the color disappeared. Let them all shine. Flashback. The college visit. That wasn't I thought of the spring when Marcy was applying to colleges. She had begged me to visit campuses with her, even though I hadn't gone to any myself. We walked the brick paths of her dream school, and she kept asking, "Do you think I'll fit in here?" I said yes. I didn't tell her it had been my dream. 2. I didn't tell her that my acceptance letter had come 2 years earlier, and that I'd ripped it in half when Mom said, "You'll be too far from Marcy. She needs you right now." No one remembered that conversation. But I did. I remember it every time I see the school's decal on the back of her car. At the reception, I watched from a distance. My name card had moved, again. It was now folded neatly, beside the cake table at a small round meant for vendors or overflow guests. Someone, probably Mom, had done it quietly, thinking I wouldn't notice, thinking I wouldn't mind. Marcy stood under the soft lighting of the dance floor, glowing in her second dress of the evening, the expensive one she had added last minute, saying, "Every bride needs a wardrobe change." Her maid of honor clinked a glass for a toast. Not me. Never me. I watched it all unfold from my tiny chair, the clapping, the laughter, the applause. It all washed past me like a sound I'd grown used to not hearing. And then the lights dimmed. The slow song started, her first dance, with my father, not hers. Ours. The phone that buzzed like a warning. I left before the dancing ended. No one noticed. Back at home, our childhood house, the one I was told to sleep in the basement of for space reasons, I changed out of the dress in the dark. I didn't hang it. I didn't even zip the garment bag. I let it fall onto the carpet like it didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. But then my phone buzzed. A message from Dad. "Thanks for everything today, sweetheart. Sorry about the table situation. Things got complicated. Hope you understand. Hope you understand." That's what they always said. When Marcy cried, when I stepped aside, when they needed me to disappear quietly, I stared at the screen, then turned it face down. I didn't answer, not out of spite, but because for the first time, they could feel what it was like to speak into silence. The aftermath was quieter than the ceremony. The next morning I heard birds, not wedding music, not laughter. Just birds, through the cracked basement window above my head, calling out into a soft gray sky. I lay still, blinking against the dusty light filtering through the concrete frame. My dress was still in a crumpled heap near the foot of the bed. No one had called. No one had texted. No one had noticed I'd left early. I wondered if they even noticed I was there at all. Flashback. The group photo. Without me. There was a moment yesterday, just after the bouquet toss, when someone suggested a sister's photo. I had been speaking with a distant cousin near the bar, pretending I couldn't hear. Pretending I was too caught up in small talk to rush over. Marcy stood between two of the bridesmaids, all of them glowing, backlit by strings of fairy lights. My mother waved at me, frantically mouthing something. I shook my head and smiled politely. They took the photo without me. I watched the flash go off, and in the brightness of that 1 second, it hit me. I wasn't excluded. I was optional, and being optional is its own kind of exile. The quiet refusal. Begins around noon. Mom came downstairs, holding a wrinkled laundry basket in one hand and a mug in the other. She didn't knock. She never did. "Oh good, you're up," she said. "Marcy's wondering if you can help sort through the gifts. She's a bit overwhelmed." "Gifts." I blinked at her. "I thought I'd head out this afternoon," I said. "Back to the apartment." She frowned. "So soon? You just got here." "I've been here 3 weeks." "Well, she's your sister. She needs you right now." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "No," I said gently. "She wants me right now." Mom opened her mouth, closed it again, then left the room without saying anything else. The silence she left behind was the most honest thing she'd ever given me, a note taped to the fridge. I didn't pack much, just what I'd brought. The dress stayed folded in the basement closet. I didn't need it again. I left a note on the fridge, the same fridge where our childhood chore chart used to hang, where Marcy's A+ math quizzes were taped while my poetry contest ribbons ended up in drawers. It was short. "Thanks for the bed. Wishing you both the best. MC's name." I didn't sign it with love. I didn't leave a forwarding address. I didn't need them to follow. A month later. Silence is a mirror back in my apartment. Things were still. My plants had wilted slightly but were still alive. The window blinds let in that soft winter silver light that feels like memory. I checked my phone. Nothing. No missed calls. No thank you. No how are you. I scrolled through social media. Once. Marcy had posted a carousel of photos from the wedding. I was in none of them. Not even the group photo I'd been told I had to be in. It was like I hadn't been there at all. And somehow that hurt less than being remembered for the wrong reasons. The unexpected call. And the choice I made, it was a Tuesday evening when my phone rang. Not a text, not a voicemail. A call. The name lit up. Daddy stared at it until the ringtone faded. Then I watched it ring again. And again. And I let it go to voicemail. Every time. Later, when I finally listened, his voice was slow. Measured. Like he knew he had only 30 seconds to ask for something he'd ignored for 30 years. Hey kiddo, just wanted to check in. Marcy's been feeling down. She said you've been distant. Mom says you've been off. Just hoping we could talk. All right? Love you. I sat there a long time, letting the words echo. Distant. Off. No one had said, "Are you okay?" No one had asked, "What happened to you at the wedding?" They only noticed my absence when it disrupted their expectation. What I didn't return. Few weeks after the call, I didn't answer. A white envelope showed up in my mailbox. It was thick, laced with glitter around the flap, the kind that flakes onto your hands no matter how gently you handle it. Inside was a thank you card, the mass-produced kind printed in swirly gold font, with a tiny pearl stuck to the corner. My name had been scrawled across the front. Dear MC, thank you so much for being part of our special day. You looked beautiful and we were so happy to have you standing by our side. Couldn't have done it without you. Love, Marcy and James. There was no mention of the rides. No mention of the muffins. No mention of the gift I had Venmo'd 2 days before the wedding. No mention of me leaving early. No question as to why. Just love, Marcy, like a stamp or a brand. Like a performance she assumed I was still clapping for. I closed the card and placed it in the back of my drawer. Not out of sentiment, just out of habit. Flashback, the piano. I let her break. When we were kids, I had one thing that was mine. A tiny upright piano, chipped at the corners, and 2 keys stuck from a juice spill I never confessed to. I loved it. I used to sit there for hours, plinking out broken versions of songs I'd heard on TV. Marcy wanted it too. She used to slam the keys with her fists when I wasn't around. One day, she snapped the music stand off the top and said it was loose. Already. I cried. She did too. Louder. And Mom said, she didn't mean to. It's just a thing. It wasn't just a thing. It was the only thing that had ever made me feel like I took up space on purpose. That was the day I started playing quietly. That was the day I started apologizing for wanting something she didn't. The message that sat unanswered. It took a month before Marcy finally messaged me directly. Hey, haven't heard from you. Did I do something? I feel like you're mad or something, and I don't know why. I read it 6 times. She could have asked, are you okay? Did something hurt you? Do you want to talk? But instead she asked if I was mad, as if her discomfort was the issue, as if my silence had wounded her more than her actions ever touched me. I didn't reply. Not because I was mad, but because I was done explaining my grief to people who never stayed long enough to hear it. The dress was still there back home for a weekend, the kind where you don't tell anyone you're coming. I went down to the basement again. The dress was still in the closet, wrinkled now. faded a little from the corner of the closet window where the sun had crept in. Still zipped halfway in that garment bag like it wasn't sure what it was anymore. I stood there for a long moment. Then I reached in, pulled it out gently, and walked it upstairs. No one was home. I laid it across the living room couch, where Marcy usually threw her handbags and shopping bags. I taped a note to the hanger, for you, since it never really belonged to me. The unfollow was quiet. That night, in my apartment, I opened Instagram. Her profile was still the same: bridal photos, flower girls, a reposted reel of her slow dance with James. I went to the following tab, hovered, then tapped unfollow. No drama, no announcement, just gone. Not a war. Not a statement. A sigh. A shift. Things I stopped explaining. It's strange how easily silence becomes a routine. You don't plan for it. You don't declare it. You just stop picking up your phone when their names appear. You stop filling in the blanks they pretend not to see. At first I thought I'd feel guilt, but instead I felt space. Breathing room. Like I had been underwater for years and only just realized I could float without drowning. I stopped explaining why I didn't want to come to Sunday lunch. I stopped liking their posts. I stopped pretending their forgetting me was accidental. It never was. Flashback. The graduation photo. She cropped. The summer I finished college, we threw a joint graduation barbecue. Well, I graduated. Marcy had just finished her second year of nursing school, but Mom insisted we celebrate both. She works so hard, she said, and your cousins are in town. We shared a cake. I didn't get a speech. Marcy did. Later, she posted a photo from that day, the one where I was beside her, in cap and gown, holding our shared cake like it still meant something. She cropped me out of it. The caption read, "So proud of how far I've come. Nursing school, Jark almost, there." That was the day I started saving memories for myself, not for them. The day I declined the call it had been 2 months since the wedding when the next call came. Mom. I watched the phone buzz across my kitchen counter. I was making soup. The cheap, kind, powdered broth, fresh ginger, leftover rice. The kind I used to make when no one cooked for me. I let it ring. It rang again 5 minutes later. Then again. Then a text. "Your sister is pregnant." No punctuation. No emoji. Just information dropped like a stone in a still lake. I sat down on the edge of the couch, still holding the spoon in my hand. The congratulations wouldn't come. Not because I wasn't happy for her, but because I wasn't happy with her. And that distinction mattered. The registry link I didn't click a week later, another text, from Marcy. "Hey, I know things have been weird lately, but I'd love for you to be part of this next chapter. We made a baby registry. Here's the link." There it was again, the assumption that I would forget, that I would forgive simply by being asked, that my silence was a pause, not a boundary. I didn't click the link. I archived the message. Then I opened a fresh document and wrote the title, "What They Took and Never Noticed," and I began to list it all. Not for them, but for me. The list, unfinished. My piano. My college. My dress. My seat at the wedding. My Sunday. Mornings. My silence. My softness. My birthday candles. My father's first dance. My name on the family group chat. My room. I didn't know where the list ended. I only knew it didn't start at the wedding, and it wouldn't end with a baby. The things I stopped offering. I used to think love looked like self-sacrifice, like making her tea when I hadn't eaten, like giving up my room when hers got too cluttered, like baking the muffins, like buying the dress, like smiling even when I wasn't in the photo. But lately I've been thinking, maybe love isn't supposed to cost only one person. And maybe when it does, it isn't love. It's convenience. The email I never replied. To it came on a Thursday. Subject line: the baby shower. It was from Mom. Hi, sweetie. We're planning something small but elegant at the house. Marcy wants it to feel cozy. We were thinking of using your old room for the gifts and setup. Can you come early? To help decorate? You're so good with details. My old room. The one she took for her honeymoon packing. The one they cleared of my things when they needed extra closet space. That room hadn't belonged to me in years. I read the email twice. Then closed the tab. Didn't delete it. Just let it sit, like so many other things I'd left behind. Flashback. The college loan I didn't take. I remembered sitting at the kitchen table, pen hovering over a loan application. I had been accepted. Finally. A quiet university in the mountains. One that didn't care if I wasn't loud or flashy or photogenic. Marcy walked in with her prom dress, the third one she'd tried that week, and said, "Do you think Mom will be mad if I get the silver one too?" I looked up. "It's expensive." She blinked. "Well, it's not that much, and Dad said he'll figure it out." That night, I didn't fill out the loan. Dad came home late and handed Marcy the money she needed. He never asked about my forms. Never brought them up again. The baby registry. Revisited, I clicked it once. Not because I changed my mind, just curiosity. Closure, maybe. It was full of neutrals, wooden toys, organic cotton onesies. Matching nursing chairs for both floors of their home. There was a section labeled, "Gifts from Auntie, MC." As if it had already been decided, as if my role had been carved in stone. I closed the tab. Tighter this time. The call that went to voicemail. Again, I went for a walk the day before the shower. It was raining. Not a storm. Just that soft gray drizzle that soaks your sleeves before you realize it. I let it. I didn't bring an umbrella. I walked to the bookstore at the corner. Bought myself a copy of a poetry collection I hadn't heard of. A small gift for myself. No occasion, no reason. When I got home, my phone had 2 missed calls. One from Mom, one from Marcy, and a voice message. "Hey, just wanted to check if you're coming tomorrow. Everyone's asking. We thought maybe you were just running late. Let us know." They thought I was late. They still thought I was coming. I didn't call back. Instead, I lit a candle. I made tea. Lit a candle on my windowsill. Watched the raindrops blur the city lights into soft halos. For the first time, I felt like the silence wasn't empty. It was mine. It wasn't revenge. It was return to myself. To a version of me that didn't need to be visible to be whole. I didn't go. That was the final choice, not a dramatic one. No slammed doors, no speeches. I just didn't go to the baby shower. I didn't explain. I didn't excuse. I didn't soften the edge of my absence. I let it speak. And what it said was enough. Flashback, the last gift I ever gave. There was a Christmas years ago. I had saved up for a necklace Marcy had pointed out in passing. Pale gold, tiny heart. I skipped lunches for a week to afford it. Tucked it under the tree with a note in careful script. To the sister who taught me how to shine quietly. She opened it, squealed, tried it on, then said, "Oh, but it's not real gold?" She never wore it again. I never gave her another gift after that, not one that cost anything I couldn't afford to lose. The quiet that stayed in the weeks after the shower. No one followed up. No, we missed you. No, is everything okay? No, why? They posted photos, pastel balloons, cupcakes shaped like rattles, Marcy with her belly wrapped in pink ribbon. I saw the pictures when someone tagged me accidentally. I wasn't in them. No one noticed I wasn't. For once, that didn't ache. It calmed. The new ritual now, when I walk past mirrors, I try not to check for who I used to be. The girl who flinched at every forgotten birthday. The girl who smiled too hard just to be included. The girl who carried trays of muffins to a room that forgot her name. She's quieter now. Still there sometimes, but steadier. I make my own tea in the mornings. Buy flowers on Sundays, even if no one will see them. Wear the earrings I like, even if no one compliments them. The final boundary was no apology. There was one last message from Marcy. I don't know what I did, but I miss you. I wish you'd talk to me. I stared at it for a while. She didn't know, and maybe she never would. Maybe she wasn't ready to see how much she'd been handed, and how often I was the one handing it to her. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, but because I had finally started loving myself more. What the dress became I never took the dress back from the living room couch. I heard, weeks later, from a cousin, that Marcy wore it for her maternity shoot. She captioned the post, "Life comes full circle." It didn't. Not for me. For me, life opened. In a different direction. A slow, wide quiet where I finally had room to breathe.